The air in the hotel lobby smelled faintly of citrus cleaner and entitlement. Meena adjusted the stiff collar of her faded blue housekeeping uniform, the one with the embroidered Sandstone Suites logo near her shoulder. She'd stitched that patch on herself. Funny how the managers always said the budget didn't cover replacements. She walked briskly across the marble lobby floor, polished to an obsessive shine that only her hands knew intimately. In her right hand, a small rag for glass. In her left, the little green clipboard with that day's cleaning schedule. "Meena," barked Lindsay, the new front desk manager, from behind the reception counter. Meena turned, her eyes patient, calm. "Yes, ma'am?" Lindsay's eyes darted toward the front entrance, where a couple in golf polos and high-dollar luggage were wheeling in through the glass doors. "Could you step back into the hallway, please? Guests are arriving." "I'm on my way to—" "Clean the elevators," Meena replied, voice soft but steady. "Yes, I just—" Lindsay smiled with teeth but not eyes. "We're trying to keep the lobbies look a little more refined today. Corporate is sending someone. It's, just step around next time, okay?" Meena nodded slowly. She didn't raise her voice. She never did. But her hands clenched, slightly around the rag. By lunchtime, the hotel break room buzzed with whispers. The corporate rep had apparently arrived, a tall man in a grey suit who walked fast and didn't say hello to anyone. Meena sat near the microwave, eating her rice and pickle from a reused yogurt container. Across from her, Jorge from maintenance leaned in and whispered. "He didn't even look at us," Jorge muttered. "Walked right past like we were invisible." Meena stirred her rice slowly. "They always do," Jorge snorted. "Not to you? You been here, what, 10 years? They'll notice if you're gone." Meena looked up then. Her eyes were dark, unreadable. 14, she said quietly. "And no, they won't." Later that afternoon, while cleaning the executive suite, the one with the lake view and the fake fireplace, Meena's phone buzzed. Not many people texted her. Her daughter Asha was in her last semester at Boston University. That tuition wasn't cheap. The message came from Gopal, her late husband's old friend and the family lawyer. "Need your signature on the Sandstone transfer by Friday. Once finalized, you'll have controlling shares. No one can contest it. Now." She stared at it. Not with joy, not with surprise, just stillness. She put her phone down gently and returned to wiping down the fake marble counter in the bathroom. In the lobby again, later that evening, Lindsay was laughing with another. Front desk associate Rachel, both of them blonde, both of them in identical navy vests and glossy heels. They barely paused when Meena passed by again, this time rolling a cart of fresh towels. "I mean, really," Lindsay whispered, just a little too loudly. "She's so sweet, but I just wish management would place her somewhere that, didn't confuse guests. She doesn't fit the Sandstone look." Rachel giggled. "Yeah, like sweet grandma energy, but not front lobby 5-star, Meena didn't stop. She didn't look at them. She just kept rolling the cart toward the service elevator, step by step, until the doors opened. But in the quiet metal box, her reflection stared back from the mirrored wall. And for the first time in years, her jaw was clenched. The next morning, Meena arrived earlier than usual, before the sun had risen over Lake Forest Drive, before the valet unlocked the gates, before the lights even flickered on in the lobby chandeliers. She stood in the staff hallway, sipping hot masala chai from a ghee thermos wrapped in a kitchen towel. Her sneakers, worn but clean, were tucked beneath the break-room bench. A spare hairpin rested on her wrist like a bracelet. She wasn't on the schedule until 9 a.m., but that didn't matter today. Today, she wasn't just showing up for linens and trash cans. Today, she was taking the keys. At 8:03 a.m., a silver Lexus pulled up front. Gopal stepped out, smoothing his tie, a file folder tucked tightly beneath his arm. He had always worn too much cologne, but he carried the quiet weight of someone who knew how to fold words into laws. Meena met him near the elevator with her housekeeping cart in front of her like a shield. "You brought the papers?" she asked, quietly, keeping her eyes on the ground. Gopal handed over the file. "Notarized, registered. The majority shares were transferred from Anand's estate. Your daughter already co-signed. You're now officially controlling owner of Sandstone Hospitality, LLC, this location included." Meena's hands didn't tremble as she took the folder, but her fingers pressed against the edge of the document like she was checking if it were real. "Does corporate know?" she asked. "They will by noon," Gopal said, "but you might want to introduce yourself to the manager first." Meena said nothing. She simply nodded once and walked toward the lobby. Lindsay was behind the reception desk again, typing something loudly, sipping iced coffee through a straw with her lips pursed. Rachel wasn't there yet. The morning shift had just begun. The lobby was quiet, golden sunlight pouring in through the tall windows. When Meena approached the desk, Lindsay didn't even glance up. "One sec," she said, still typing. "If you're clocked in, the laundry carts are still in the back hallway. Just saw one of them blocking the fire exit again." Meena stood there a long moment. Still, she said nothing. Still, Lindsay didn't look up. Then Meena gently placed the folder on the counter. "This is for you," Lindsay blinked, finally glancing away from the screen. "What's this, room feedback?" Meena opened the flap and turned it toward her. "Ownership documents. Sandstone Suites' controlling stake was transferred this week. As of this morning, I am the registered majority partner." Lindsay stared at the header, Illinois Secretary of State, business entity filing confirmation, and her eyes slowly widened. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. "I've asked Gopal to contact your district supervisor," Meena said calmly. "You'll be meeting with me and the board by Friday. I suggest you come prepared to explain last week's comments." Lindsay's mouth twitched. Wait, this isn't... You clean rooms." "I own them," Meena said, her voice still even. "And this lobby, too." She turned, her shoes soft against the polished marble, and walked toward the elevator. Behind her, Lindsay stood frozen behind the desk, pale, silent. Her hand still hovered over the keyboard, but she never typed another key. Back in the staff hallway, Jorge was fixing a leak near the laundry machines. Meena passed him, folder in hand. "You get that paperwork signed?" he asked, only half looking up. Meena smiled softly. "Yes." "You selling or remodeling?" "Neither," she said, "but there will be some changes." He raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" She paused, looked down the hallway, the one she'd walked every day for 14 years, carrying towels, picking up trash, being told to stay quiet and invisible. Now she could finally speak, like starting with respect. The conference room smelled like cheap coffee and fresh paint. It was Thursday morning, and the staff had been summoned for what the printed signs on the doors called a transitional meeting. No one knew what that meant, only that it wasn't optional. The usual whispers were louder than usual as people filtered in. Front desk associates, housekeeping leads, maintenance crew, night security. Even a few mid-level supervisors from the downtown sister property had shown up, looking unsure of whether to greet anyone or stay invisible themselves. Meena stood near the back, hands folded in front of her. Not in uniform today. For the first time in years, she wore a navy blue cotton blouse and a long simple skirt. No name tag, no badge. Her only jewelry was a gold chain, her late husband's wedding gift, and a small bindi above her brow. She watched as Lindsay arrived last, flanked by Rachel and one of the regional assistants. Lindsay's face was freshly powdered, her blazer stiff with new dry cleaning. She didn't look anyone in the eye. She hadn't said a word to Meena since Tuesday. When the projector screen flickered on, Gopal stood at the front, beside a tall man with rimless glasses and a stack of folders under his arm. Thank you all for coming, Gopal began. This will be brief. As of this week, there has been a transfer of ownership within Sandstone Hospitality's local franchise properties. We'd like to officially introduce your new controlling partner and on-site executive, Mrs. Meena Venkatesan. There was a pause, then a small wave of confused glances. Someone in the back muttered, "Wait, her?" Another voice, young, sharp. From Rachel's Raub said too loudly, "She's the cleaning lady." Meena stepped forward slowly. She didn't flinch, didn't scowl. Her hands stayed calmly clasped as she stood before the staff she'd once quietly cleaned around for. "Over a decade I was," she said gently. The room stilled. "For 14 years I've worked here. Cleaned every room, folded every towel, heard every complaint. I've scrubbed the grout in your break room, taken out your trash, fixed your own messes without being asked. And I watched. I remembered." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "I know who helped. I know who ignored. I know who looked away when others were mocked, and I know who laughed." She turned slightly toward Lindsay, without fully facing her. "I know what it means to be told you are not the image this place wants." Lindsay's face burned a deep, blotchy red. "But I am the image this place was built on," Meena continued. "Quiet hands, long hours, people who smile even when no one smiles back, immigrants, single mothers, night staff who take the bus home. We made this hotel." There was a long silence, then a single clap from Jorge in the back corner. Another followed. Then another. A few staff looked uncertain, but several more joined in, hands meeting slowly, then with growing certainty. The sound swelled in the small room until even the assistant manager lowered his head. Lindsay did not clap. Her arms were rigid at her sides. Her jaw clenched. After the meeting, Meena sat in what used to be the operations manager's office, now hers. The desk was bare. The nameplate had been removed. A blank space waited for something new. She flipped open a notebook. Wrote 2 lists. Keep, replace. Names went on both, not in anger, in clarity. There was work to be done. That night, as she walked through the quiet hotel lobby to check the final shift logs, she saw a young guest at the front desk, maybe 13, maybe 14, trying to speak to Rachel, who looked confused. The boy's Spanish was quick and nervous. Rachel only shook her head. "I don't know what he's saying. Somebody get Jorge." Meena walked up beside them. "¿Dónde están tus padres, mi hijo?" The boy's eyes lit with recognition. "Se perdieron en el estacionamiento." Meena listened, nodded, then turned to Rachel. "His parents got separated in the parking garage. I'll help him." Rachel blinked. "You speak Spanish?" "I speak 4 languages," Meena said calmly, "but I've cleaned up messes in all of them." She led the boy gently toward the side hallway. Behind them, Rachel stared, not angry, not smug, but small. The phone call came in just past noon on Monday, a chirp from the front desk line, followed by a tight knock at Meena's office door. Jorge stepped in, hat in hand, his work shirt spotted with drywall dust. "Guest check-in just flagged something strange," he said. "Someone's trying to book the executive suite for the week, but the system says it's already blocked out." Meena didn't look up from the papers she was signing. "It is." Jorge scratched his head. "You got a private guest or something?" "I moved in." He blinked. "Wait. You live here now?" Meena set down her pen and met his gaze with a calm, steady look. "I've spent 14 years in the shadows of this hotel, cleaning after people in that room who never saw me, who left towels on the floor and gum under the sheets, who tipped with crumbs or not at all. That room has a view of the lake. For once, I want to wake up and see something beautiful." Jorge gave a low whistle. "You're something else, Senora." She smiled faintly. Only now do they notice. That evening, the whispers started again. "She's living in the suite," Rachel whispered in the break room. "She moved her clothes." "In and everything," muttered Curtis from night shift. "They even brought in teacups and incense." "That's not professional," said Lindsay sharply. "Executives don't live in the rooms. It's not the image of a five-star brand." "She is the brand now," Jorge said from the hallway, not bothering to lower his voice. "Better get used to it." Lindsay turned red again. She started to speak, then bit it back. The suite itself had changed too. Gone were the generic framed art pieces and plastic orchids. Meena had removed them, replacing the walls with warm tapestries from her home, reds and golds, hand-stitched, lined with mirrored thread. The air smelled faintly of cardamom and sandalwood. One side of the room had been turned into a quiet meditation space, with soft lighting and folded blankets on a small mat. But the desk by the window, the one overlooking the lake, was where she spent most of her time. That's where she reviewed staff evaluations, made discreet phone calls to vendors, and read every old incident report from the last 5 years. Patterns emerged. Names reappeared. Favoritism. Quiet terminations. A record of complaints from minority. Staff mysteriously lost. Meena wrote everything down, not to punish, to cleanse. The same way she'd once cleaned mold from bathroom grout, patiently, completely, until nothing toxic remained. On Wednesday, she hosted her first leadership meeting in the conference suite. She wore a tailored cream sari with a navy border, her silver hair pinned in a low twist. No badge, no logo. But she didn't need one now. Presence was enough. As the staff trickled in, they noticed the details. Chai in porcelain cups, not styrofoam. Real sugar cubes. Warm lighting. A table set with folded name cards. One for each department head regardless of status. Jorge, Sandra, Malik, Carla, even old man Denny from night security. Lindsay's card was near the end. She arrived last, paused in the doorway, then slowly sat. Meena stood and nodded at them all. "I asked you here," she began, "because I want to change how this place breathes." They listened. The sandstone suites have good bones, but somewhere we forgot who was holding them up. It wasn't the brand, it wasn't the rating. It was the people who fixed pipes in the dark, folded sheets without applause, the ones who were never seen, only needed. Lindsay shifted uncomfortably, eyes locked on her untouched Meena. Didn't look at her directly. She looked at everyone. "I don't want you to fear the corner office. I want you to knock on its door. I want this hotel to run on dignity, not distance." She placed a small brass bell in the center of the table. "From now on," she said, "we ring this to open every weekly meeting, not because of tradition, but because some of us were never called before. Some of us were always waiting outside." She looked to Jorge. "Would you do the honors?" Jorge reached out, rang the bell. A clear, steady chime filled the room, and something inside the hotel seemed to settle, like the walls had been holding their breath and were now finally allowed to exhale. That night, Meena stood barefoot by the window of the executive suite, holding a warm cup of milk chai. Outside, the lake glimmered in the moonlight. The trees whispered in the dark. She wasn't just staying in that room. She was taking up space, without apology. And tomorrow, she'd start rewriting every training manual they had. The call came just after noon on Friday. It was subtle at first. An email ping to the shared operations inbox titled, "Subject, Unannounced Quality Review Visit. Today, from Corporate Regional." Oversight. Lindsay read it first. Her pale pink nails froze mid-click, her face draining of color. She sprang to her feet, heels clicking on the tiles as she rushed toward Meena's office. But the door was closed. A small paper sign, handwritten in calm script, read, "Quiet hour. Please return after." 5 p.m. Lindsay hovered, panicked, then turned and ran. In the conference suite turned command post, Meena already knew. She sat at her desk reading the same email, except her version came with an attached memo from her silent equity partner at headquarters. Per your ownership. Request. This audit will be impartial. No names were disclosed. The reviewer arrives in 45 minutes. She sipped her chai, then made a single call to the front desk. The inspector arrived promptly at 12:46 p.m. He wore a neutral navy suit with a badge clipped to his belt, walking with the quiet authority of someone used to being ignored, until it was too late. His clipboard was leather. His pen was Mont Blanc. Lindsay greeted him at the door, breathless. "Welcome to Sandstone Suites." "I'm Lindsay, front desk and interim ops lead. I'll be assisting you through your tour today." The inspector raised a brow. "Is the on-site partner available?" Lindsay blinked. "Oh, we're in, an administrative transition. I can handle this." The inspector did not smile. "Let's proceed." They started with the lobby. Lindsay beamed, narrating every detail she could. "We've implemented fresh citrus mint aromatics, incorporated hand-cut hydrangea bouquets twice weekly, and updated the guest refreshment area with lemon-infused water. Of course, our cleaning staff maintains a strict hourly wipe-down rotation." But the inspector said nothing. He simply wrote. Next came the guest rooms. He chose one at random. Room 504, Sandra, the new housekeeping lead, met them there, gloves on, and cart nearby. She didn't look flustered. She didn't stumble over words. She showed the sanitization log, demonstrated their new towel-folding protocol, and answered questions with quiet, professional grace. After a few minutes, the inspector nodded. "Thank you, Ms. Castillo." Lindsay blinked. "You know her." He didn't answer, just kept walking. By the time they reached the kitchens, Lindsay was sweating. "I should mention we recently promoted several staff members for equity and performance. We've embraced a diverse hiring initiative." The inspector stopped walking, turned to face her. "Have you been trained in cultural sensitivity policy implementation?" She blinked. I read the handbook. Have you apologized to the staff member you told was not the image for this brand?" The color drained from her face. I never meant—" He cut her off. "That was included in your personnel file. The one forwarded to us anonymously by a board-level partner." Lindsay stood still, mouth open, unable to defend herself, and just then the doors to the executive suite opened, and Meena walked out. She wasn't wearing a uniform. Not today. She wore a crisp cream blazer over a soft saffron blouse, modest gold earrings, and at her side her old green clipboard, not because she needed it, but because it was a part of her story. The inspector smiled for the first time. "Mrs. Venkatesan." "Mr. Horwitz," Meena greeted, calm and composed. "Welcome to our home." Lindsay looked between them. "Wait, you knew he was coming?" "No," Meena said simply. "I asked." The inspector turned to Lindsay. The ownership group called for an unscheduled inspection. The purpose was to assess the true culture of the hotel, not the curated tour. Meena added, "Not the image, the roots." He nodded. "And from what I've seen so far, your staff passes. Your leadership," he glanced at Lindsay, "requires review." Lindsay's mouth fell open. "But I've been—" Meena stepped in softly, like a final towel folded into place. "You've been here, yes," she said gently, "but not present, not listening. And now, we need someone who is." That evening, Meena stood by the concierge desk as guests checked in. Jorge waved as he passed by with his new tablet. Carla from kitchen services smiled wide in her crisp white apron. Even Denny, the old night guard, tipped his hat. The hotel didn't feel fancy, it felt alive. A little boy and his mother walked up to the desk, and the boy asked something in Spanish. Rachel, now on front desk duty, tried, and then turned to Meena. "Could you help?" Meena translated, gently patting the boy's head. Then she turned to Rachel. "Next week we begin Spanish classes for staff. Optional, but paid." Rachel smiled softly. I'd like that. Upstairs, the executive suite glowed with warm light. The clipboard sat on the desk. Next to it, a note from Usher. Mom, I saw your photo on the Sandstone website. I showed my whole class. They cried. I did too. Meena pressed the paper to her. Just outside, the lake was still. But inside, everything had changed. On Monday morning, a new binder appeared in the staff break room. Not the faded one with torn pages and 3 bent rings that had lived on the shelf for a decade. This one was thick, polished navy blue, with the Sandstone Suites logo freshly embossed on the front. Below the logo, in bold-centered font, the People First Manual, initiated by Meena Venkatesan, managing partner. The staff approached it like it might burn them. Sandra flipped the first few pages while sipping her coffee. Jorge leaned over her shoulder. Rachel walked in mid-yawn, stopped when she saw the binder, and mouthed, "Is that new?" It was. Brand new. And it read like a letter to every person who had ever felt invisible in that building. The first page wasn't policy. It was story, Meena's story. I began as a cleaner, not just of rooms but of air thick with silence. I remember who looked away. I also remember who left the light on. The policies came after that, rewritten in simple human language. No jargon, no legalese, clear protections against discrimination, mandatory leadership humility training, new standards for shift breaks, grievance reporting that went directly to ownership, and a new bonus structure for long-tenure employees who'd been previously overlooked. But it wasn't just what it said, it was how it said it. Warm, precise, just like Meena. And it came with action. By noon, the first staff-wide meeting under the new manual was underway. The entire team gathered in the sun-filled conference room, now redecorated with hand-woven throws, and fresh marigolds in mason jars. The long folding table had been replaced with round ones. No corners in conversation, Meena had said. She stood at the front, a smile soft on her face, but her spine straight as a ruler. "We've begun," she said simply, a pause. Then she held up the old handbook, the flimsy one with coffee stains and fine print. This used to tell you how much you were allowed, how many minutes you could sit, how many times you could speak, what you could not do. She dropped it into the recycling bin beside her, then lifted the new binder. "This one tells you how much you matter." A murmur of applause rippled around the room. "I know not all of you trust it yet. I don't expect you to. Trust isn't a meeting, it's a month, a year. It's someone remembering your mother is in the hospital, or that you don't eat pork, or that your accent is not a flaw." She looked toward Rachel, who blinked quickly and nodded. "From this day forward," Meena continued, "no one will be told they are not the image of this place, because from now on, you are the image, the team, the brand." She stepped back and Jorge stood up. He raised a coffee mug to the cleaning lady who rewrote the rules. The room erupted in soft, stunned claps. Some laughed. A few wiped their eyes. Sandra whispered to Rachel, "You ever think you'd see this?" Rachel whispered back, "I never even thought to hope for it." That evening, Meena returned to the executive suite just as dusk settled over the lake. She placed the binder gently on the coffee table and stepped onto the balcony. The wind was cool, stirring the edge of her sari. Below her, guests moved in and out of the lobby. Light shimmered on the marble. Somewhere near the break room, someone laughed, not nervously, just full and free. Behind her, a voice said, "May I come in?" It was Gopal. She turned. "Of course." He handed her a file. "Investor review meeting is next week. I already know the report will be clean, but they'll want to know if you plan to expand." She took the folder but didn't open it. Instead, she stared out at the water. "I don't want a chain of hotels," she said. "I want a chain of dignity." He nodded. "Then you've already started." That night she wrote a note in her journal. Some people clean floors, some clean ledgers. Today, I cleaned a name. She closed the book, folded her hands, and looked out. At the hotel that had once hidden her, and now had her name on the deed. It started with a quiet call from facilities. "Ma'am," Jorge said over the hotel's internal line, "you may want to come down to the lobby. Something's happening." Meena looked up from her desk in the executive suite, pen still, poised over an open invoice ledger. The sun hadn't even risen fully yet, just the faint blue of early morning stretching beyond the windows. "Is there a problem?" she asked calmly. "Not exactly," Jorge replied, "but you'll want to see it yourself." By the time Meena stepped into the marble lobby, her sandals clicking softly against the floor, the entire early shift had gathered in a quiet semicircle near the main wall by the reception desk. Die plaque wall, the one that had displayed for nearly 15 years the founders and leadership of Sandstone Suites, a row of gold-etched nameplates screwed into polished cherry wood. Names of men, mostly, big titles, big suits. Names she had dusted every Tuesday without ever daring to look too long. Now that wall was different. She stopped walking. Right in the center of the panel, the maintenance team had carefully removed a faded brass plate that once bore the name of a partner no one had seen in a decade. In its place, a larger gleaming rectangle of burnished metal was freshly mounted, a satin cloth still draped over it, pinned lightly at the corners. Jorge nodded at her. "It's time." Meena stepped forward. No speeches, no fanfare. She simply pulled the cloth down, and there it was. Meena Venkatesan, Managing Partner, Sandstone Suites. Leadership is not a title, it is a towel. For a moment there was silence. No claps, just breath. Then Rachel stepped forward, one hand on her chest. "I've worked here for 3 years," she said. "And I didn't know who founded this place. Not really. But now I do." A few others nodded. Jorge smiled wide. Carla from Kitchen Services wiped at her cheek with a napkin. Even Denny, the gruff old security guard, cleared his throat loudly and mumbled, "Took 'em long enough." Meena just stood there, eyes soft, one hand brushing lightly against the metal. Her name, her full name, not anglicized, not shortened, not hidden, finally seen. That afternoon, 2 unexpected guests arrived at the front desk. A couple, mid-50s, jet-lagged but tidy, stood politely as Rachel checked them in. The woman was thin, wearing a simple linen blouse. The man looked serious, clutching a canvas bag tightly. Rachel glanced at the reservation name and did a double take. "Wait," she said softly. "Are you—" The woman smiled. "I'm Asha's professor. This is her thesis advisor." Rachel blinked, then beamed. "You came all the way from Boston?" The man nodded. "She told us if we wanted to write about equity in American hospitality, we needed to see this place, meet her mother." Rachel's eyes filled with pride. "Let me show you to the suite." Later that evening, Asha herself FaceTimed from her. Meena held the phone with both hands, the way she always did with precious things. "Mama," Asha said breathlessly, "they put your story in the Graduate Policy Journal. People are asking if they can interview you. NPR wants a quote, and I think someone tagged you on Instagram." Meena laughed softly, shaking her head. "I don't even have an account." "You will," Asha said, smiling wide. "I'll make one," Meena smiled. "Make one for the hotel, not for me. Let the story be theirs." Asha tilted her head, serious now. "But it started with you." Meena's voice dropped to a hush. "It started with silence. But it won't end that way." That night, the final guest of the day stepped out of the elevator, an older woman in a deep green salwar kameez, visiting from Delhi. Her English was limited, but her eyes sparkled as she approached the desk. She looked up. At the wall pointed to Meena's plaque, then turned to Rachel. She Indian? Rachel nodded. She owns it. The woman clapped her hands together with delight. Wah, wah, very good, very good. We see ourselves now. Rachel smiled. Yes, ma'am. We all do. Upstairs, Meena stood once again on the balcony of the executive suite. The wind brushed her face. The lake below shimmered like melted steel. The hotel glowed warm behind her. She wasn't invisible. She was etched in metal, not as decoration, but as proof. The letter came in a velvet envelope slipped under her door. Meena found it early one morning, just after steeping her first cup of chai. The golden sandstone international seal shimmered on the front like a quiet challenge. She peeled it open and sat down in the window seat, the lake glowing below in the soft breath of morning light. The letter was brief. To Mrs. Meena Venkatesan, we have reviewed your leadership model at Sandstone Suites, Lake Forest. The board is both impressed and inspired by the cultural transformation and staff engagement scores under your tenure. We would like to extend a proposal to lead the brand's new franchise mentorship program. You would oversee development of 5 new regional sandstone properties built on the People First model you authored. Your name would appear in the National Leadership Registry, and your hotel would become the new training flagship. Respectfully, Chairwoman Lisette Devlin, Sandstone International. Meena read it twice, then once more, and finally, she smiled. Not big, not triumphant, just soft, steady. The way trees smile when they realize their roots are deeper than any storm. That afternoon she called an all-staff meeting. No printed signs, no formal dress code, just a handwritten notice on the staff board. Come as you are, we built this together. And they gathered in the lobby. Standing beneath the wall that now bore her name, the cleaning supply cart, the old vacuum and the floral mop bucket were there too. Not hidden in closets, but placed proudly to one side. Meena stood before them in her navy sari with the gold trim, hands folded. I've been offered expansion, she began quietly. They want to build more hotels based on this one, based on you. A murmur swept through the group. Here's the part they didn't expect, she added. They want us to teach them. Jorge grinned. You mean we're the example now? Meena nodded. We are the model. They asked if I wanted to rename this hotel to match the new program. Everyone leaned in. Meena held up a small plaque, a prototype for the future sign outside. It read, The House That Workers Built, a Sandstone People's Suite. The room erupted. Laughter, claps. A few people wiped their eyes. Rachel whispered to Carla, She's changing the whole chain. Carla nodded. No, she's changing the whole game. That weekend a new guest checked in. A girl, no older than 20, brown-skinned, shy, dragging 2 suitcases and speaking softly with an accent. She was a first-year hospitality major from Houston, visiting for a paper on inclusive management. Meena saw her from the balcony, made her way down slowly and greeted her personally at the front desk. Are you here for research? Meena asked gently. The girl nodded. I want to build something like this one day. Meena smiled. You've already started. You walked through the right door. Then she handed her a copy of the People First manual. Take this, but don't copy it, rewrite it. Make it yours. The girl looked stunned. Really? Meena bent slightly, eyes kind. The towel always passes to the next hands. On the last day of the month, Sandstone International arrived for a photo ceremony. The suits, the cameras, the ribbon. Meena didn't stand in front of the line. She stood with her team shoulder to shoulder. When the photographer asked her to come forward alone, she shook her head. Take one with them first. They earned the shot. The final photograph, the one that would hang in all new Sandstone franchises going forward, showed a janitor, a front desk clerk, a cook, a housekeeper, and a woman in a sari holding a clipboard. No labels, just dignity, and beneath it, a simple line. The heart of hospitality is not marble, it is people. Ending. That night, Meena walked the halls one last time before bed. She checked the laundry room, the staff lockers, the unused storage closet no one ever thought to care about. She smoothed the bed in an unbooked room, adjusted the crooked frame above it and left a mint on the pillow. And then she walked to the lobby, stood before the wall, and placed her hand, brown, strong, aging, on the plaque with her name. Not in pride, but in remembrance, because for 14 years no one ever looked at this wall and saw her. Now the ones who come after will, and they will know they belong here too.